I'm Barbara Ryan and I work at University of Southern Queensland. I do research on disaster behaviour and communication, and I also teach public relations, organisational communication with different stakeholder groups. I have just recently finished a project for Toowoomba Regional Council where my team and I were asked to investigate how ready Toowoomba community residents were for bushfire, and amongst the questions we asked were around risk recognition, so how did Toowoomba people recognise that they were at risk of bushfire, and also what they were doing to prepare. So the research was a random telephone survey, mainly with people who live along the escarpment. 330 people were interviewed and we asked a range of different questions and got some amazing results. There are 4 areas that we're really interested in, so safety planning, preparation for leaving, preparation of people's house during bushfire season, and also reducing the vulnerability of the house. So the first area was safety planning, and that involves things like having a plan, sharing the plan with the family, making sure everyone knows where they've got to be and what they've got to do in that plan, and also practicing the plan. Other things in the safety planning area were getting a kit together, making sure you've got emergency equipment together to fight a bushfire, and a few other things that you can do to stay safe during a bushfire. So after we asked all of the questions around safety planning, we gave the community a score out of 10, and it was 3.4, which needs a bit of work. The second area that we looked at was preparation for leaving. So this was quite devastating because 94% of people told us that they were just going to leave, that was their plan, and yet hardly anyone had done anything towards preparing to leave. So things like planning the route, working out where you're going to go to, making sure you have all your documents together at certain times of year ready to go, getting ready to take pets with you, those types of things are all really important in the preparation for leaving, because if you're leaving, you're under a lot of stress and you can't make decisions very quickly. And you make silly decisions too. So that preparation is really important to make that process go smoothly. So after we asked all those questions, the community ended up with a score of 1.7 out of 10. So that was really disappointing. Their triggers for leaving were even more disappointing. Smoke and flames. If they could see smoke and flames, that's when they were going to leave, when we know that that is the worst time to leave. In the Black Saturday bushfires, many of the 173 fatalities were actually people who were leaving at the last minute. They got caught in thick smoke, they hit trees, they hit other cars, and they died on the road out of their place. So we know that that is a really bad time to be leaving. The best option is to be working out what your triggers are. So you work out what temperature it's going to be and what wind speed, and they're your triggers for making sure that you've got your pets and you are leaving. So being in the field I'm in, I'm a little bit paranoid about bushfire. And I live in a place where I'm on a dead-end road. There is state forest between me and the highway. I know that if a fire gets over that road, I'm not going to have any option to leave. So I have a plan to leave when the temperatures get to 35 degrees and when the wind speed gets over 30 kilometres, and usually when the wind's coming from the west. I have horses, so I've got a place organised to take my horses for the days that those conditions prevail. So my plan, and I practice this every year. First thing I do is I get the cat. I have all my documents together, I put those in the car, I get the dog, and I load the horses, and I know that because I've practiced, I can do all of that in 20 minutes and be out of my place. So it's really important to have those triggers identified, have your plan practiced, and time yourself. Make sure you can do it really quickly. The third area we looked at was preparation of the house. So this really equates to making a house look really tidy, but also a few extra things like making sure you've got all your coir doormats put away, soft furnishings put away, making sure you've got your firewood timber stacked away from the house, not against the house, and general things like mowing the lawn, making sure you've mowed fire breaks, making sure you've cleaned up any branches that have fallen down, and trying to clear trees and branches from around your houses for as wide a buffer as you can. So we did pretty well in that area. People scored 7 out of 10, so pretty good. The fourth area was house vulnerability to bushfire, and because we're not very practiced in Queensland with bushfire, we scored really badly in that too. So we got 0.2 out of 10, and this is the type of things like making sure all the gaps are sealed around your eaves and at the base of your house so embers can't get in underneath the house or into the ceiling. Installing shutters over the windows, because the science tells us that windows are really vulnerable. They're the weak point of the house. Even putting in sprinklers and having independent power supply to run those sprinklers, not a petrol pump, because petrol doesn't work very well in bushfire. Those sort of heavy duty things that are going to protect your house if a bushfire arrives. So of course, not being experienced, not many of us do it. So another aspect that we looked at in the research was mitigation. One of the groups that we really focused on were landowners, people who had more than half an acre, and we discovered that about 80% of those people really didn't know what mitigation was, how they could go about it. So mitigation includes things like installing fire breaks, installing fire trails, which disturb the soil less than a fire break, doing burns, so you can do burns with your neighbours and with the local rural fire service, and generally doing things that are going to prevent a fire from travelling across the landscape towards your house. So that 80% of people, generally people who don't come from a rural background, really not sure how to tackle that. Easiest answer to that dilemma is to go to your local rural fire service and get advice on how that can be done. And they're very keen to come and help. Neighbours will be keen to help. Just generally talk to everyone around you to see what everyone else is doing in terms of mitigation activity. If you live next door to parks or forestry or perhaps infrastructure for power lines, that sort of thing, those organisations are also really conscious of fire risk. So it's just a matter of persevering and trying to get through to them and working together to make sure that you have some mitigation activity done. And they'll be keen to hear from you, because half of their battle is getting the consent of neighbours so that they can do some burning or fire breaks. So one big message came out of this research, and that was that people really don't realise that they are at risk. And even if you live 6 blocks in from the bush, no matter if it's in Toowoomba or your local town, you are at risk. So really be thinking about what you can do to protect your house from a bushfire. The embers in Black Saturday travelled 30 kilometres ahead of the fire. So while we're not at that stage yet in Queensland, we're fully expecting those sorts of conditions. You can't imagine that you are safe. So please, from July to October every year, be really taking the fire preparation safety messaging very seriously. Believe that you are at risk. Your house is at risk. Once you do that, then you're halfway there, and you can get information from the Rural Fire Service website on what you can do to make yourself and your family and your house more safe in bushfire season.